So jury selection began today in the high-stakes trial of Sean Diddy Combs, setting the tone for what's shaping up to be a legal and cultural showdown. Now, in opening statements, prosecutors argued that behind the glitz of celebrity lies a pattern of criminal behavior, while the defense pushed back, framing the case as a dangerous overreach with the government criminalizing a man's personal lifestyle. Now, honestly, I was appalled by many parts of the defense's opening, and you will learn later on in this video why. Now, two key witnesses already took the stand, offering early glimpses into a world where fame, power, and privacy intersect, and where the outcome may ripple far beyond the courtroom. Now, will Diddy beat these charges, or will he ultimately be convicted, facing decades in prison? Let's discuss. So jury selection in the Diddy trial didn't take too long. It was pretty typical. However, Combs' attorney, Agnifilio, he did raise some serious concerns about the prosecution's jury strikes. Apparently 7 out of 9 people they struck were black. And he was calling it a pattern, and the judge did allow a Batson challenge. That's the legal tool used to call out racially motivated juror removals. Now, U.S. Attorney Comey, she pushed back hard on that. She said their reasons were neutral and had nothing to do with race. Some examples she gave. One juror had watched Making the Band and knew multiple names involved in the case. Another had a history of calling police a-holes, so pretty much F the police. One said they had special insight into bipolar disorder, possibly too close to the case. And a few had family who were either law enforcement or had been in serious legal trouble. One even attended the same high school as Diddy. So Comey argued all of these were valid reasons under Batson, basically saying these weren't race-based, they're about bias or credibility. Now, the final jury breakdown was 8 men, 4 women. Alternates were 4 men and 2 women. Now, at first glance, some might see this as a win for the defense. But here's where it could get a little tricky or interesting. Some legal experts note that women can actually be tougher on other women, especially in SA or DV cases. There can be some type of judgment. Meanwhile, male jurors may feel protective, thinking of their daughters, sisters, or mothers, or simply not want to be that guy seen siding with an alleged abuser. But then again, some jurors may be over the Me Too era, especially some male jurors, and become more skeptical of accusers. But the bottom line is that jury dynamics are complex, and this case is already layered, and the makeup of this jury might add another unpredictable layer to how it plays in court. So Assistant U.S. Attorney Johnson, she didn't rush with her opening. I'm hearing she actually spoke really slow. But look, this isn't TV court or entertainment. This is real court, and apparently she came with the receipts. Now, it should be noted that Combs has a right to a fair trial, and he has pleaded not guilty to all charges. But this is how the prosecution opened. Johnson said, "This is Sean Combs. To the public, a mogul, but behind closed doors, allegedly much darker." The prosecution laid out a 20-year pattern of alleged criminal behavior. SA, substance distribution, violent assaults, blackmail, and intimidation. Johnson made it clear, this isn't gossip. It's about a system of abuse. Now, the government's portrait of Combs is chilling. He didn't just abuse power, he built a machine to enable it. FOs, or Wild King Nights, were allegedly planned events where women, including Cassie and a Jane Doe, were forced into acts with male escorts. These weren't spontaneous parties. Prosecutors say staff handled the details. hotels, lighting, substances, even the escorts. The substances mainly were MDMA or Molly, and they weren't for fun. They were tools used to impair, arouse, and control. One disturbing detail, a escort allegedly was ordered to urinate in Cassie's mouth, causing her to choke. Now, Cassie was a rising star, but she allegedly suffered years of abuse, beaten, stomped, dragged by the hair, and blackmailed with footage refusing to join the FOs. That meant career S for her. Jane Doe's story mirrors it as well. A single mom lured under the guise of a relationship only to find herself trapped in the same cycle of substance abuse, coercion, and threats. She too was allegedly told her silence was the price of survival. Now, one of the most disturbing aspects is the focus on Combs' inner circle. Johnson named bodyguards, assistants, even a chef who allegedly didn't just know, but they helped in delivering substances, coordinating FOs, silencing women, cleaning up evidence. See, now that's where the racketeering charge could stick, because I need clarity on that charge. The feds are casting Bad Boy Records not as a music label, but as a shell of a criminal enterprise, with its structure used to further hide Combs' alleged crimes. Now, the prosecution claims to have texts from Combs directing staff to bring cash against substances or escorts, video of a violent assault in a hotel hallway, which we all saw, testimony from Cassie and Jane Doe and employees like Mia who claim she was SA'd by Combs, and former escorts. They have financial records, including $100,000 hush money payment to a hotel guard. They have physical evidence from Combs' home with bags of substances and tools used during FOs. If insiders flip, this case could get even stronger. Now, the prosecution's opening was sharp and emotional. They're not just alleging crimes, they're alleging a structure of abuse. Racketeering is a high bar, but that's why they're leaning on the staff, the repeated violence, and S-acts, and the use of business fronts. Now, Combs faces 5 federal charges, 2 for S-trafficking, 2 for illegal transport of Ps, and 1 for racketeering. The trafficking charges alone carry a 15-year minimum. The transport is up to 10 years, racketeering, possibly life. Even one conviction could land him in jail for 10 years. And if this opening is any sign, the prosecution has a pretty strong case. So look, I have to say this. I was audibly appalled by the very first sentence of the defense's opening, done by Tenny Garagos, a woman. She opened with, "This case is about love and jealousy and money." I was like, excuse me, what Diddy allegedly put Cassie through, even if you strip away the current criminal charges, was not about love. It wasn't some kink gone wrong or your typical toxic entanglement. What's being described by multiple women over years is something far more insidious, manipulative, and frankly, demonic. The opening statement felt less like a legal strategy and more like a rebrand of trauma into romance. To me, this opening shows 2 things. 1, Diddy's team may be throwing whatever narrative they can to dull the edge of overwhelming evidence. And 2, they are dangerously tone deaf. There's a reason many survivors online, including one TikToker, Daily Doses with D, he called this out as straight up sexism. The idea that victims chose to endure this, as he said, like they were picking between yoga and Pilates. It's horrifying. This isn't lifestyle content. These are serious allegations of coercion, violence, and fear. And this defense team had the audacity to frame survival as complicity. So let's break down what defense attorney Tenny Garagos actually laid out. She opened with praise. Diddy is a fascinating mogul from Harlem, a cultural icon who built something big. Okay, fine. No one is debating he was successful, but since when does success exempt you from accountability? Now, she admits Diddy had a violent temper, cheated, got jealous, and wasn't proud of it, but claims that doesn't make him a racketeer. This is, he's a bad guy, but not that kind of bad guy defense. It's weak in my opinion, and worse, it's dismissive of the trauma described. Now, the narrative pushes that these women, Cassie included, chose to be in these relationships, that they benefited from him, his homes, vacations, jobs, and here's where, to me, the gaslighting is laid on thick. According to the defense, this was not coercion, this was free will, a repackaging of abuse as adult choice. They even tried to use the now infamous hotel hallway video where Diddy is seen dragging Cassie as proof that it wasn't trafficking, because in their words, she walked out of the room with her bags. So that's the bar now? If a woman has her bag when she's assaulted, then it wasn't abuse? Now, Garagos paints Cassie's continued involvement, flying to Georgia after Kim Porter's death, staying 2 more years as evidence that she wasn't a victim, as if trauma bonding, manipulation, and survival mode aren't real, as if abusers don't isolate and wear down their victims over time. Hopefully they have experts for this. And then they got down on the Jane Doe. She did it for the cuddle, that she was willing and desperate to be with him. Even after describing violence, even after the head slamming incident, they portrayed her as just another jealous lover. The victim blaming is staggering. But let's be clear. The defense is not just defending Diddy, they are putting the victims on trial for staying, for surviving, for not running sooner, for having emotions, for needing safety. As TikToker Daily Doses D said, Cassie didn't just run into someone else's arms, she escaped. Now, her parents' modest home in Connecticut probably felt like heaven to her compared to the substance-filled FOs that Diddy's team tried to rebrand as consensual nightlife. The defense claimed the government is invading Combs's private life. But when that private life allegedly includes fear, violence, threats, manipulation, substance abuse, and coerced acts, it's not private anymore. It's criminal. Yes, some of the women were in long-term relationships with Diddy, but longevity does not equal consent. Just because someone stays doesn't mean they wanted to. Just because someone doesn't call the police doesn't mean nothing happened. We've heard these defenses used against SA survivors forever, and it's exhausting. And let's not ignore the irony. The defense starts by saying this case is about love. Now, who wrote that? Did Diddy write that? The man who now goes by love as a moniker? If that's not a disturbing twist of branding into legal strategy, I don't know what is. The bottom line is this opening statement was not a defense in my opinion. It was gaslighting on the record. They tried it. They really did. But to anyone paying attention, it's clear that their attempt to criminalize victims and sell us all on narrative of bad boyfriend, not criminal, is not only tone deaf, it's insulting and it's dangerous. Now, what we saw with the first witness, in my opinion, was the prosecution carefully laying the groundwork for Cassie's upcoming testimony, which is expected this week. Their first witness, hotel security head Israel Flores, isn't just sharing what he saw, he's helping paint the scene of what allegedly happened at that infamous hotel in 2016. His testimony establishes how the surveillance video footage came to light. He personally recorded it with his iPhone before it mysteriously disappeared from the hotel system. Now, on cross-examination, Diddy's attorney, Brian Still, he went in on some of the missing details in Flores's report, questioning why key facts weren't documented. That's not just, in my opinion, nitpicking. It's about planting seeds of doubt in the jury's mind. Gaps in surveillance footage as well still suggest maybe we're not seeing the whole picture. But let's be real. How many kicks or violent moments do we really need to see before we believe something went wrong there? Reasonable doubt might be the goal here, but the foundation for Cassie's story, in my opinion, is starting to really take shape. So, warning, the following testimony is disturbing and caused visible distress in the courtroom, apparently. So word is that Combs's daughters actually walked out during this segment, and it's believed that most of his family even followed during this segment, including his mother. I guess they were trying to shield themselves from the content of what was said. So shortly after 3 p.m. on Monday, a sharply dressed man named Daniel Phillip, I don't believe that's his real name, but he entered the federal court and quietly walked past Diddy, though they did not directly interact, of course. What followed was a highly emotional and graphic testimony that stunned the courtroom, as I said at the top. So Phillip, who is now 41, he took the stand in the ongoing federal case involving allegations of trafficking and coercive control. He told jurors that more than a decade ago, he was paid after engaging in intimate activity with Cassie while Diddy observed. Now, according to federal prosecutors, as I mentioned, Diddy allegedly orchestrated these events known as FOs. They're private gatherings featuring elaborate, highly produced encounters that he allegedly directed, recorded, and sometimes observed while satisfying himself. Now, authorities say Diddy pressured Cassie to hire male companions for these events, and Phillip was among those hired on multiple occasions. Now, Phillip said he met Cassie and Diddy around 2012 or 2013 while managing a male review in NYC. When asked to fill in last minute for a private party, he agreed, expecting just a standard performance, but upon arrival, he found himself in an unexpected situation. Only one woman, later revealed to be Cassie, was present, and she indicated it was a special night for her and her husband and requested baby oil to be used. Now, the room was set with candles and other accessories, but Cassie wore a red outfit and sunglasses, and a man later believed to be Diddy sat silently in a corner with his face partially covered. Now, Phillip testified that Cassie paid him several thousands of dollars and that they engaged in physical intimacy while the man watched. Now, afterward, Diddy allegedly instructed them to exchange numbers, and Cassie soon reached out via text and invited Phillip back to similar encounters, all which allegedly took place under Diddy's direction and observation. Now, prosecutor Comey questioned Phillip on some specifics which are central to the prosecution's claim that Diddy exercised disturbing control over these situations. Phillip recalled being directed with phrases like more baby oil, slow down, and don't release yet. Diddy even wanted him to urinate on Cassie. He also mentioned one role play scenario staged to mimic a chance meeting at an airport. Now, Phillip also detailed moments of apparent violence, including an incident where he said Diddy pulled Cassie by the hair into a bedroom, during which Phillip heard screaming and what he described as physical assault. He apparently heard Cassie scream, I'm sorry, etc. So Phillip testified that while he wasn't typically a substance user, Diddy once asked him to take some substances, which made him, he said, feel out of control. He recalled actually walking through Times Square, handing out $100 bills after taking this substance. He said it was an experience he regretted. Now, before the day ended, Diddy's attorney, Xavier Donaldson, began cross-examination on Phillip, but they will continue that cross-examination tomorrow as the proceedings continue. Whew, so that's my show for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown on day one of the Diddy trial. I will be bringing you more. I have to say the case has started with quite a bang. I mean, if this is day one and we have 8 more weeks, I mean, my goodness, what else will be shared? This feels like enough to me, but be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.